Hey, we're back. This is John.
It's Paul.
And it's What If Geeks. We don't have an Eric today. He's on
There's no
vacation.
Eric. So any number of technological things could go wrong.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't have notes. We're not prepared.
No, no. Ironically, I've had notes for this episode sitting here for about 3 months because we've been planning to do this episode for quite some time now. Actually, I think it's been about a year. When you first brought it up as an idea, and then I was like, yeah, I really want to do it. The episode is going to be what if we were in charge of, and it's basically like if everybody picks something out of pop culture, geek culture, and what we would do with it if we were in charge of it, right? Paul came up with the idea quite a while ago, and we kept saying, like, we kept going back to it, like, we need to do that one, we need to do that one, and we just haven't. And I've been sitting on some notes for mine for quite a few months now when we finally said, okay, we're definitely going to do this. And it still took us months. So hopefully, like, the best ideas are, like, postponed repeatedly.
Yeah, exactly. Put off and put off. And there's not a lot of new things out. We just did a review of episodes 1 through 4 or 1 through 3. Yeah, we did 1 through 4. 1 through 3 of Marvel's What If. So we'll do 4 through 6 next week, but this is a good time to sort of jump on this and have you sort of hear from us on the things we liked from years gone by and how we would do it differently. So
Yeah. And since Eric wasn't too thrilled on the subject topic anyway, it's a perfect time to do it. All right. So what if we were in charge of? So right now, like, we've spoken at length with our podcast being what it is, on pop culture and everything, especially like the geek culture, superheroes, science fiction, all that shit, right? That we're in like the golden age of geekdom, basically, for entertainment. Superheroes are all over the place, all kinds of media, right? Between video games and movies. So all the blockbuster movies lately are all superhero movies, right? Awesome TV shows, animated series, all kinds of shit, right? And so while the superhero part of it kind of comes from like the comics that you and I used to read back in the day, there's a lot of other stuff that's kind of been picking up. Like, I guess you'd say like nostalgia is the big trend now, where they've remade He-Man and She-Ra and a whole bunch of stuff. Like Voltron has been out for a while on Netflix, and that's an awesome series.
There's a new Transformers. There's
multiple Transformers.
Yeah.
So we said, well, like, what if we were to do something like this with something that hasn't been made already? Or, I mean, we could even have picked something that is made. That could be a fun discussion, like maybe on the website. Like, what would you do differently with some things they've done? Especially with all the fan uproar and support of the He-Man Revelations. Like that we personally liked, but understood where at least the foundation to the uproar was, but we don't think it was really justified the amount of rage that some of these fans.
It's really outsized based on at least what we saw from the first series of that. It's not woke. It's not.
No.
So.
No, I understood the complaints, but I was like, I see what you were trying to get at, but it's not justified.
Right.
So, yeah, all right. So, Paul, you want to start us off with what you would do with a property?
Okay. A little bit of backstory on mine. So I chose What If I Were in Charge of Battle of the Planets. This is an animated show that was on when I was a kid. I'm about to date myself, but I
dated myself for years. It's okay.
Yeah. I used to date myself a lot, and then I got married, and now I did. This has been called a bunch of different things, but it started as the anime series called Science Ninja Team Gatchaman in the early 70s. If you were, somewhere near our age, you will note that in the late 70s, it was called Battle of the Planets, which is what most people know it as. And then I didn't know and didn't follow that it had been remade 2 or 3 different times. One iteration was called G-Force. And so The team themselves in Battle of the Planets called themselves the G-Force team, and their uniforms have this sort of stylized G as the emblem. But they remade the show to be called G-Force. It was also respliced and revoiced as Eagle Riders. And so the version I remember, Battle of the Planets, the team was Mark, Jason, Princess. The kid's name was Keop, and the pilot was Tiny.
Yeah.
In the original, in Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, it was Mark, Jason, it was Ken, Joe, June, Jinpai, and Ryu. And then in various other things, they're all kinds of different names. In one, I think Tiny is called Hootie the Owl or something like that.
Yeah.
There was actually a live action movie in 20.
Froze up.
Oh,
Live action movie in 20.
I think it's 2013. It was announced at San Diego Comic-Con, producing a live action Battle of the Planets. Okay, so according to Wikipedia, it says it was announced at the San Diego Comic-Con in July 2019 that Joe and Anthony Russo are producing a live action Battle of the Planets through their production company, Agbo. On July 22nd, 2021 is announced the Russo brothers have brought Daniel Casey as the film scriptwriter. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
There was a bear with me, live action movie made in Japan. I've seen it with subtitles. It's okay. It's not great. It is. It feels a little bit like one of the kaiju movies, right? Where like there's a big mech, there's kind of a big monster. The G-Force team gets it together, and they ultimately go fight it. It's not a bad movie, but I want to take it back closer to the original Gatchaman. And I would do it on Netflix or streaming service. I wouldn't do live action. I think I would do it animated. I would do it that way so I don't need famous voice actors that I think would detract from it. I would make it darker. I would make it a little bit more. When I say adult, I don't mean like. I mean they should talk like normal people talk, and there should be, an occasional swear word, and there should be violence, and it should be a little bit darker of a tone, but not like Justice League dark, right?
Right.
And a more realistic animation style, a little more like I really like the way Marvel does the animation in What If. It's a little bit more like that, a little less of the. I know it is probably computer generated, but it looks more hand drawn. Not the way that Netflix is doing He-Man, but keep the kind of the Marvel style. I like that a lot. And I think that there's cool stories because you've got, this is, I think, started the trope of kind of the 5-man band, right? So if you've ever read the TV Tropes website, there are a ton of these, and this is sort of where this got started, right? There's leader guy. The second in charge is like, if the leader is gung ho and outgoing, the second guy is like brooding and solemn and whatever. Then there's the girl. Then there's the kid. Then there's the big guy.
That's exactly what Voltron is.
Correct. Except
for the remake. The remake, the princess is in the background, but in the original cartoon, it was literally this with lions.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because it doesn't. Episode 1 of Voltron doesn't start that way, and then one of the guys, I think, dies, and it's weird because there's a minute where like the leader who flies Black Lion actually wears a red suit,
right?
Because he moves sort of up in the order, right? He gets Black Lion, but he doesn't change his suit. But yeah, it's exactly right. have leader, right? Outgoing leader guy, brooding second in charge guy, girl, kid, big guy.
Yeah.
So we started this. They've got powers, but they're not superhuman. They've got it. They sort of glide in these sort of glider suits. They have weapons. They have this ship that turns into, they call it the Fiery Phoenix. That eventually what happened, each episode was kind of big monster of the week. Big monster shot down to a planet. It runs amok. Call in the team. They fight. Ultimately, you have to bring all of their individual vehicles together to kind of form the plane, the Phoenix, and then they go to Fiery Phoenix. They sort of run through the thing and it destroys it. It's a little bit like Voltron, right? Voltron was monster of the week, comes down, lions all fight, lions all get their butts kicked. They form Voltron. Voltron gets beat for a minute until he forms Blazing Sword and then slices through the thing.
Yeah. It's definitely Voltron did the if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
They just replaced some color schemes and the types of ships they were using, and it was fine.
Yeah, and so I would make it a longer story arc of different things and stop doing sort of every episode has its own monster as we go through. But I think there's enough nostalgia for this. I think there's those of us that are of our age that saw this growing up thought it was cool enough to try to keep up with it. There were comics. There are toys out there for it. You can still find some videos online on YouTube of Battle of the Planets or its other setups, Eagle Riders or G-Force or whatever. But artists like the guys that do the real, Alan Ross, who does the real, very lifelike, Alex Ross, excuse me. He did Kingdom Come. He did the cover of Kingdom Come. He did the cover of a couple others where it looks more realistic.
Yeah.
Than it doesn't look like heroes are sort of in body paint, right? So you don't see every ab and like vein through their costumes, but you see a guy in a suit. He likes to do the Battle of the Planets G-Force thing. So that's mine. I think it could be cool.
Yeah, I agree. I love it, especially with like we said, the nostalgia thing with Voltron and everything. Voltron is killing it. Yeah, so really good. They should jump on this. So awesome, green light. All right, so mine. I've been talking about this for quite a while now, especially once they started talking about He-Man, Revelations, and everything. And if I was in charge of one property, I'd want to pick Thundercats because I loved this show growing up, and they remade it. It ran from 80. It was in the mid 80s. It ran 85. So I don't have it in front of me now. Let me see. Yeah, 85 to 89. Okay, wow, that was a lot longer than I thought. But then they remade it in 2011 on Cartoon Network, and they changed some things up. They kind of kept Lion-O a little bit younger for a while in that thing, where like in the first one, they escape the destruction of their planet Thundera, and they're in these cryogenic pods, and they land, on Third Earth. But Lion-O's pod, he's a kid. His pod somehow like cracks or whatever, so he actually ages. So kind of ages. His body ages, but mentally
a little bit, right? Yeah.
He's still kind of like a 12-year-old or whatever, right? So, and they kind of touch on that here and there throughout the series, but basically he's a man now. So he's the leader of the Thundercats, and he's got the Sword of Omens, and it's again the whole thing where somebody gets in trouble, and they're fighting against Mum-Ra and his evil minions, right? Was someone get in trouble because Mum-Ra is trying to destroy the Thundercats and take over all of Third Earth for himself, and they'll fight it out a little bit, but then it's always like Lion-O might get separated or some shit, and he's got to call the Thundercats, and he does the famous Thundercats ho with the Sword of Omens, and it sends up the signal, right? Now, for me, I really, really enjoyed that 2011 series because it was a little grittier. It was better. I mean, the original series is what made it. It's obviously without that, you don't have anything else. But
what's funny is this follows the same pattern almost, because I just sort of jotted their names down to think about this. There's 2 kids, so you end up with 6 people. But if you take the kids as one person, you've got leader who's young and impetuous. So you got number 2 guy, Tigra, who's like more level-headed and sensible. Big guy is Panthro, girl is Chitara, and then there's a kid, right? You've got
they just have the 2 kids, and then they have like the standard sidekick in Snarf that would be like Orko and He-Man, right?
And then there was a boss. Something happens. Thunder, Lion-O starts getting beat up, and then he calls the others, and they come running, and then it's fine.
Yeah, and kick the shit out of somebody, and everybody runs away to fight another day. Yeah. So then in the newer series, they had done like where Lion-O and Tigra were more like adoptive brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And Tigra thinks he's next in line for the throne, but their father is like, no, it's going to be Lion-O, so there's some animosity there. It's just a better show. It's made, for more of a current time. What I would do is they had rumored, since before the 2011 series, but especially after that thing launched and it got really good, a really good fan following, they had announced a live action movie. And I've wanted to see them try to do one. So that's what I would do. And I'd get the guy that made the remake of the Cats musical. No, I'm kidding. I think I'd actually go with
you want to see all their buttholes?
Yeah, I want to say yes. Hey, look, Naked Chitara in that first episode of the 80s series never left my mind. I was like, I'm feeling kind of funny. It's kind of weird. Hello, puberty. No, I would go more, I guess, with what the fuck's his name? James Cameron, Avatar.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like how those the Navari, whatever they're called, they look realistic. Mm-hmm. I would want like that type of animation style for them. Obviously, it would have to be more like stop motion because like you could see under like when you have like the humans that are pretending to be the Navari or whatever they are. You can kind of see like you can see Sigourney Weaver's face under there. You can see what the hell's her name? Gamora. Right.
Oh, it's
Zoe. Yeah, her.
Yeah.
But you can see her face in her character, you know what I mean? You can see the kid's face in his character when they become these aliens, right? So I would want that for these actors. And I'd pretty much try to do like star-studded. It wouldn't have to be. But just because like I don't know the names of a lot of like lesser known actors, you could throw a shit ton of lesser known actors in here and make a great movie out of it, right? Do the entire story from when they crashed to Third Earth and then their first fight with Mum-Ra or whatever, right? But for the movie, I'd say like, Lion-O, you can get one of the kid actors like Finn Wolfhard or some shit, to do the kid one because he's only going to be in it for about 5 minutes. So you can get like almost any kid to do this. But for the grown-up one, I'd go with someone like Sebastian Stan. He's got a physique and he's got the hard look about his face that he can really do it, Panthro, I was going to go with Mike Coulter, the guy who played Luke Cage.
Oh, yeah.
Or Winston Duke from Black Panther. Yeah. One of those two. Got to be Panthro because he's a big guy, right? Tigra, I go Alexander Skarsgård. Pennywise.
Yeah.
Pennywise, yeah. Chitara, I would either go with Zazie Beetz, who was in Deadpool 2, played Domino, or a little further back, I don't know if she's too old for it now, but Alexander Daddario. She's been in a whole bunch of shit. Blonde model, yeah. So either one of them could do it. The Dario one was because Chitara's blonde, and it just she kind of like if you threw some CGI right over the actress.
Margie Ribot.
Yeah, there you go, Margie. Margie Monroe. Margie Ribot.
Remember when we did that a long time ago? I don't know who
Eric did.
Eric mispronounced. Yeah, Margot Robbie is Margie.
Yeah, Margot Robbie. He was like, "Yeah, just get Margie Ribot in there." And we were like,
just get Margie Ribot.
Oh shit! So yeah, you can do her too. No pun intended. Yeah, like Wile Kit and Wile Cat. I go like Wile Kit. The only younger actress I know nowadays is Millie Bobby Brown. So I mean, you got to throw her in there. And then if you want to keep with the whole Stranger Things, Wile Cat could be Noah Schnapp. He's the one that played Mike, the kid that got kidnapped or whatever, right? Jaga, I want Morgan Freeman.
Oh, of course.
Right? Who's gonna lead these guys from the spiritual realm but Morgan Freeman, right?
Exactly.
And then like Snarf, in the first one he talked. In the 2011, I don't think he ever talked. I think he just snarfed. Right?
He does that snarf thing. You're right.
Yeah, he does the snarf and whatever, and it was fine for that. But like for a movie, I want to go back to like the speaking thing and give it to Jordan Peele.
Okay.
Yeah, let him do it. And then you get into the bad guys. I want Mumra. I want Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Slide and Jackman, because I wanted them to work together and be able to work off of each other. So Slide, I wanted Nick Frost, and Jackman, I wanted Simon Pegg.
Okay.
Because they've been in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead and all that, right? They'd be good together. Monkeyin, it's got to be like Dave Bautista, someone with a physical presence that can, and Vulture Man, I was like Lenny James Morgan on Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay.
Black guy with the bow staff. Yeah, I think he'd be good as Vulture Man. He's a good actor. I like him a lot. And then I'd throw in like, throughout the movie, they got to run into, before they do a big fight with Mumra or whatever, as they're learning about Mumra, they need to run into other inhabitants of Third Earth, like those Bobills, the bears or whatever. Yeah, little robot bears. Yeah, the robot Care Bears, or what the fuck they are. Obviously, that's straight up CGI. It'd be like kind of like an Ewok thing, right? Yeah. You just get a bunch of little guys in suits and shit. But then I do like Groon was the big like saber-tooth looking guy.
Oh yeah,
it's got to be Ron Perlman.
That's good.
It's got to be Ron Perlman. I mean, outside of that, I would just do like, it's gonna have to be like a big movie. Hopefully it'll get enough money to make a sequel out of it. And that'd be cool. But because there are other characters in there that came like later on in the Thundercats movie, they introduced other cats that survived Thundera, and you can add them in later in a sequel. But I want to go with like the main original cast first, tell the story about them settling on Third Earth and doing their thing there, and then like maybe you end the movie with them having finished building the
cat's lair.
And the thing, the eyes light up on it, and that's the end of the movie. You can maybe put a stinger in for something for another one, but then after that, I would immediately go to Netflix. Good.
I was gonna say in the post credit scene, you could have, because I remember in there's a season 2 or 3 of the original. There's the silver. There's a white tiger.
Yep.
Bengali. There's a blind guy named Linkso. There's another female.
There's a girl, yeah. I forget her name.
When the cat thing comes open, like they could be on a different part of the planet, all thinking that they're alone. Their eyes light up, and they're like, "Oh snap!" There's other.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because they were introduced in the movie, which a little bit of trivia before I finish up what I was the rest of my plan. The Thundercats whole movie came out in a 4 or 5 part series on TV. It was like all week they did it, right? It was like Monday through Friday or whatever they did. because this was right after the Transformers, the movie in '85,
Right.
or it was a couple years after, I would say. So yeah, because season 2, 3 is when they were introduced, right? So it was shortly after the Transformers movie, and the Transformers movie did so horrible, which was funny because I really liked it, but apparently it did horrible. I think we've talked about it before, that Thundercats and G.I. Joe both had movies planned because it was like the '80s thing to do. You're gonna make an animated movie and chuck it out into theaters and get all these idiot kids to come see your movie.
Yep.
It bombed so bad. Their studios hit the brakes as hard as they fucking could. And they're like, nope. So they dropped both of those movies on TV. There was G.I. Joe, the movie where they introduced Cobra La, right? Which was interesting. And then there was the Thundercats whole movie, which was not bad, but that was the whole like, there are other Thundercats. There are other ones. We need to go save them. So they did not want to release it in theaters. So I would definitely I like your stinger to have them like be on Third Earth or be somewhere near there, and realize that the cats are there. So they got to join up in the second one. But then what I would do is I'd reach out to Netflix, and as much as I would like to do my own animated series with it, I'd just say, you know what? Look, pick up where the 2011 one left off and keep going.
Yeah.
Because when I watched it at first, like I watched it sporadically, right? So I probably contributed to the reason it got canceled. But because I watched it, but I would watch it like 2-3 episodes and I'd forget about it because I was doing something. And a month later, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll watch it again. So I didn't really like stick to it as much as I should have. But I really liked the way it was going. So I'd like to see them just pick it up again.
It was very cool. And I read that the reason that it didn't get picked up was that it didn't sell toys. That's like a majority of the reason is that the toy didn't sell well. And so they're like, look, we're really only doing this to kind of sell the toys. Right? Because they put it on Cartoon Network. And that was it was just an investment, right? I mean, that's what He-Man was about. That's what G.I. Joe was about at the end of the day. All those things were about selling the toys. And since the toy didn't sell, they were like, well, we're just not doing this again.
I kind of get it because they were trying to follow the exact same model as before, just with a different story. Yeah. Speaking of toys, and it's definitely a different age now, where I had Noah, he's 9, so he played with a whole bunch of toys, but like they were different than the ones that we grew up with playing, like G.I. Joe and Star Wars were the 3 3/4 inch, right? He-Man was a little bit bigger, was about 5 or 6 inches, right? And then Thundercats were a little bit bigger than He-Man, but there's a lot of nostalgia for the old Thundercats toys. People keep saying how much they loved them. I didn't like them as much. I didn't like them as much as He-Man. Just because the models, they were okay. They just weren't great. I'd like to do one like what they're doing now with the Mattel Classics for He-Man, or the He-Man Classics, right? Where you have like they got the classic look, but they have more articulation, whatever. I'd like to do like the classic cartoon line and then like a more current line of the 2011 series, just have them. I mean, I would say kind of like He-Man, but He-Man's figures are very distinct, but maybe a little bit more like them in the fact that they just seemed like they were more fun to play with. And then like throw a whole bunch of stuff, throw in the Cat Slayer and Mum-Ra's Castle and all kinds of shit like that, like to do with He-Man. I think it would sell better than what the originals were. But again, you've got like Noah with his Ninja Turtles. He liked when they came out with all the Ninja Turtles. He had all of them, but then they also had like the Ninja Turtle minis. I'd do something like that, but like with Imagine X, those toys they have like DC superheroes and whoever else. I would do like a regular line and then a little line of Imagine X figures for the littler kids. Cool. And those are the ones that could maybe look like the 80s cartoon. you know, because they're tiny and they're more kiddie.
Right.
I would do something like that. And I'd make like 2 whole lines of, or well, 3 technically with like the classics, because those are more collector items. But I'd do like 3 different toy lines with it. So, and then maybe a video game or something. I don't know. Because I think the only Thundercats video game was like way back on like the freaking Atari or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, it was probably like original Nintendo.
Yeah.
If there is one, it's probably not any good.
Some really bad side scroller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder how those toys, like you could do. I'm looking at Amazon as we talk about it, and I typed Thundercats into Amazon, and there's a Tigress series of Funkos that look pretty cool. And then yeah, there was a 7-inch toy line. And then there were, I don't know if these are new or if these are Super 7. I don't know if this is a toy variant or what this is. It's not a company I recognize, so it's probably newer. But it's got the board and the plastic bubble, and it looks very retro. There's a Jackalman.
Yeah, I see a Jaga figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this would really work, especially with how He-Man is. Yeah, okay. Now the Funko almost looks more like He-Man. I'm looking at Mum-Ra. The Mum-Ra for Funko looks exactly like He-Man.
Oh, sorry.
Like same model almost. And it looks better than than the original. It looks much better than the original. I'd go with that. That'd be cool. Yeah, I have to look. Yeah, a lot of these figures look pretty cool. These are much better than the figures that I grew up with back in the day. So yeah, I would go with something like this and re-release them and just go to town on it. What I really love to do too is if I drop this thing on Netflix, it would take a Sony Disney level of collaboration. But a few years ago, they did a Thundercats Masters of the Universe crossover comic. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I'd take the Masters of the Universe Revelation, take the Thundercats, they're not too far off from each other as far as animation style, and just kind of blend them a little bit and do a Thundercats He-Man crossover. I think that would be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So that's my idea.
I like it. Yeah. Green light for sure.
Thank you. Next time we do this, we'll talk about the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover we're going to do.
That's right. I mean, you could do a legit, I think you'd have to start to do a G.I. Joe because of the way they did the first movie with Channing Tatum and
Jamie Foxx.
I thought it was a Wayans brother. I think it's like Marlon.
Maybe it was. Yeah, I think it was Marlon Wayans. You're right. It wasn't Jamie Foxx.
And then they finally got The Rock for the Rock and Bruce Willis in the sequel.
Yeah.
You could do it, but you'd have to do it like, I think it'd have to be less cartoony and more sort of realistic military, but I think you could do it.
I think so. I would love to see them really make a good movie out of it because I loved G.I. Joe too when I was growing up. I mean, G.I. Joe, as far as my toys went and the comics, I love the comics, and I got into the toys and the comics right about the same time, or maybe I think it was the toys first, and then because of the cartoon, and then as soon as I started collecting comics, that was one of the ones I collected like every month it came out, right? Went back and watched a couple of the 80s episodes, and I was laughing. Because, everyone's shooting these lasers and they don't fucking hit a thing.
Right.
Nobody dies. Right. Nobody dies.
Right.
If
a plane gets shot down, they very, very clearly show a parachute.
Yeah. Which is actually a joke in Toy Fair magazine. Remember I told you about that one? Came from the Wizard magazine, which was the comic review magazine. It had Toy Fair. Toy Fair was like where these guys, it's where Seth Green and the guy from Toy Fair started with Robot Chicken, right?
Oh,
that's what became Robot Chicken. Was Toy Fair was just them playing with like the old Mego, Spider-Man, and Thor, and all them, right? And like whatever toys, GI Joes, whatever they could find, they would make little like first it was little one-shot panel jokes, kind of like the Far Side, right? And then they made their own magazine, and it was like whole stories where Spider-Man was just like this aloof dude that just wanted to sit on his couch, and something always happened to piss him off because he was trying to watch TV. And like one episode the Borg show up and they're like trying to like assimilate his antenna. So like but GI Joe show up and they're like living in his walls like rats. Like Cobra literally comes out of a mouse hole, right? And then like the Joes come in through the front door, and they're all like teeny tiny compared to him, but they're like all shooting at each other. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?" Because like all the lasers are going up in the air, And so he reaches down. He goes, "What are you guys doing? You're never gonna hit anything like that." And he pushes down like Duke or Grunt's rifle, and he shoots one of the Cobra guys, and the Cobra guy falls over dead, and the guy next to him is like, "Carl," and all the Joe's eyes get really big, and they're looking at him like, "What did you do?" So it's like definitely like a play on that whole like you never hit anything, but you could do a GI Joe one. I haven't watched Snake Eyes yet. I've heard it was okay.
Yeah, I heard it was
not get good reviews.
Right, it did not.
No, but again, like at this point, they're kind of doing what DC did. They're just going to try everything they can until they finally get something that fans like. And G.I. Joe's a harder one because I guess in today's culture, like military and war movies and, waving the flag and everything are not quite what it was when we were watching G.I. Joe back in the 80s,
Right.
But I think you can still make it.
Yeah.
I definitely think you should bring like a new animated series with the way all these are going. People will watch it, but I don't know. I think they could do something with it. And then of course, Transformers, they just keep redoing that shit. I can't wait for the Bumblebee sequel. They've been talking about that again, so that'll be cool. But yeah, so there you go. You got anything else?
No, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I toyed with like, how do you redo sort of the DC EU, and I'm like, I don't know that you do. I think DC is going to have to do one or two shot stories, right? So they'll get this Robert Pattinson Batman, probably get a sequel or two out of that.
Yeah, Aquaman 2 is being worked on,
right? And these things exist either in a shared world, but they don't interact. But like Aquaman 2 mentions that there's a Wonder Woman and a Batman, and maybe there's a quick cameo, but I don't think we're going to do these sort of team up movies. And I don't think that we're getting the Justice League back together, right? So you could reboot Green Lantern and make a good Green Lantern movie or two that exists in the same universe, right? We don't have to constantly do this multiverse thing, right? Because I think the Batman is supposed to be on a different Earth than the Justice League. So that's how they're going to explain it. So I think you can do the same Earth, but right, you cut by the TV, right, and there's something dealing with Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman or something like that. So you know that this is the shared universe, but we're just not going to see you in this movie. I think that's how it's going to have to be.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And we've talked about that quite a bit. Like you need to build up like Marvel did, and they didn't want to do that. And that's fine. I get what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work. And that's definitely like we can do an entire show on how to fix the DCEU, and I think we should. I mean, I think it definitely bears discussion because there's a lot of good and bad in there that we can kind of filter through. So I definitely, we'll just save it for that. I want to do one of those coming up soon. But like 1960 is when the Justice League first showed up. So maybe you save a Justice League movie for 2025 and do it for like the 65th anniversary or something, and then do it like that. But that gives you time to build, I mean, at this point, you might as well just wait for the 70th anniversary and really build up. But I mean, you got 3 years to kind of chuck some movies in there that you can make some good shit. But We'll see. Well, we'll talk about it more. We'll definitely do an episode on that one. Yeah, like I consider it a lot. Like we can definitely do a sequel on this one. This episode that we just did now, because there's a lot of stuff that we can remake and kind of have fun with. I like the casting call that I tried to do and that kind of shit. So definitely play around with this one some more.
Okay.
All right, cool. Well, in that case, let us know what you think of Battle of the Planets remake and the Thundercats remake that we plan out, and if you'd greenlight it. Like, subscribe, comment down below, ring a bell, send up the Sword of Omens, do something.
Right.
Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Instagram, Twitter, and all that happy shit. That's it. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Chitara.
Not forever.
That's right, not forever.